There's a rumor that Shedeur Sanders is not a first-round talent in this upcoming NFL draft. I'm going to tell you why that's incorrect on today's episode of Locked On Buffs.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Boulder. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and redeem and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We're also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you for making me your first listen of the day. And thank you for liking, subscribing, and following. And I encourage you to continue to do so we can have some more fun. Obviously, the NFL draft is semi-approaching, right? It's in April, I believe, is when it comes down. NFL draft dates. And it's one of those things where, it's Thursday, April 24th. And it's one of those things where from now until April 24th, and maybe even after, we're going to hear nothing but rumors, speculations, shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And it all starts with Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders. So there's no secret that this quarterback class of Shedeur, Cam Ward, Quinn Ewers, Jalen Milroe, you name it, this class is inherently weaker than last year's class, right? Last year's class had talent. They had 6 guys go in the first round. And it's one of those things where if you don't get a quarterback at the right time, you may miss out on a quarterback, right? It tied an NFL record last year. They had Drake May, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, and Bo Nix. And this year, it's like Cam Ward is sort of viewed as the number one quarterback according to the odds makers over at FanDuel, and Shedeur Sanders is right behind him. I think if Drew Aller decided to declare for the NFL draft based on the college football playoff performance he's having, he could sneak his way into the first round. But a report by Tom Pelissero, NFL Network, said or revealed that people aren't viewing Shedeur Sanders as a first-round pick. And he says, I've already talked to people within the league who don't have anything close to a first-round grade on the guy, which he said about Shedeur Sanders. The idea that he's just going to walk in and going to be the number one pick, that's probably pushing it. If I were guessing who comes off the board first, I'd say Shedeur is not the first Colorado player off the board as it stands today. And I find that interesting. One, because I think which mock drafts can always be wrong, and you don't want to just base all your opinions on mock drafts. That being said, Shedeur Sanders has long been in a discussion for being a first-round pick this season, right? I don't think that's been a question, and I think when you look at how bad these teams are, and you look at the free agents who are going to be available, like let's just look at free agent quarterbacks 2025, you have to sort of, you have to, I guess, understand that like you're not going to be getting a top guy in free agency, right? Like Sam Darnold is probably the most attractive free agent in the NFL right now, in terms of he could be a free agent depending on what they decide to do. And then it's guys like Case Keenum. It'll be guys like Josh Johnson, who's a notorious like journeyman, Jimmy Garoppolo, Carson Wentz, Justin Fields. Like none of those guys are franchise quarterbacks. There's a reason, which Sam Darnold could be, and there's a reason that the Vikings may have to make a tough decision. But there's a reason that teams put so much pressure on themselves to hit on a quarterback in the draft because, one, you get them on a rookie contract. 2, you need some faith, you need some consistency at quarterback, and neither of the teams at the top have that. So it goes the Tennessee Titans, then the Cleveland Browns. Both those teams need quarterbacks. The New York Giants also need a quarterback, and those were the team that Shedeur Sanders had the shoes on, or the cleats at the time, where it had the New York Giants red and even the logo. And then you start getting into the teams that are mixed, right, where it's the New England Patriots. They don't need a quarterback. I think that's a prime Travis Hunter spot, actually. Jacksonville Jaguars don't need a quarterback. The Raiders need a quarterback. The Jets do as well. The Panthers don't. The Saints kind of do, kind of don't. Depends on what they want to do at 9. The Bears don't. The 49ers don't. Dallas doesn't. Miami doesn't. So realistically, you're looking at 2, 3, 5 teams in the top 10 that need a quarterback. So already right there's 5 potential landing spots. Then you never know if there's a team late in the draft, whether it could be the Seattle Seahawks, who maybe they want to move on from Geno Smith, or maybe it's a team like, I don't know, a team that's willing to move on from a veteran like the Los Angeles Rams. Like maybe the Rams take Shedeur Sanders, they trade back, take Shedeur Sanders at the end of the first round to back up Matthew Stafford and sort of to be that heir apparent to his throne. And so I think Shedeur Sanders all of a sudden not having a first round grade, I think there's a few things that this could be attributed to. There's a lot more teams that need quarterbacks than there are talented quarterbacks in this class. And let me explain. NFL draft season, NBA draft season, it's all the same, regardless of the sport. It becomes lie season. It becomes, okay, I'm going to put this out there, right? Whoever told Tom Pelissero this, it's either an NFL GM that genuinely doesn't have a first-round grade on Shedeur Sanders, which, I mean, is very well possible, I guess. Or, and this is the more likely option, or at least in my opinion it is, there's an NFL GM out there who's interested in Shedeur Sanders, knows that he could possibly fall if maybe he gets enough negative noise around him, right? The NFL draft is all about talking about these prospects as if they're going to fail, and then all of a sudden they fall to you, right? Look at Laramie Tunsil with the gas mask thing. I'm sure there's other guys in the past where it's like they had issues or whatever, and it's like all of a sudden this guy falls right into the lap of another team. And just one of those things where I think that's the case here with Shedeur Sanders, where maybe it's a team who really wants him and doesn't want to move up, doesn't want to give up draft capital to move up, or they don't think that there's an offer on the table for them to move up. So what do? They sort of talk down on him. They sort of say, hey, the best way for us to get Shedeur Sanders is for everyone else to think he sucks. And so they talk down on him. They say he's not a first-round talent, and then all of a sudden he goes in the first round. But I think Shedeur is probably going to be a first-round pick. I just think there's a lot of teams who need a quarterback and not a lot of quarterbacks available. So I think it just sort of falls into place perfectly for him. And he's really good, right? He's got a high football IQ. He's extremely tough. And I think it's one of those things where between Cam Ward and him, stands out as the more polished quarterback, in my opinion, right? Cam Ward, I don't love his nonchalantness at times. I think I feel like it's going to come back to bite him eventually, like when he's throwing a flat-footed pass and it's going to get picked off for a pick six, or he just flicks it up into double coverage because he's got the arm strength. I think Shedeur is a lot more methodical, a lot more careful with his throws and his decisions. So I do think that Shedeur Sanders is a first-round talent. I think we're getting into that season of, hey, let's spread some rumors, let's get our guy. And I think right now Shedeur Sanders is the victim in that method. That being said, let's talk about one of those teams I just mentioned, because they just fired their head coach, and this is the one NFL job that I'd be concerned about if I were a Colorado fan. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by Game Time. Attending the new 12-team college football playoff game is an incredible experience that brings fans together like never before. I remember the excitement of past playoff games and can't wait to make new memories with the updated format and extra teams involved. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I used Game Time Picks to find tickets for an upcoming game. Browsing through the deals was a breeze, and I found great value for all kinds of seats around the venue. The Super Deal in particular stood out as the best value for the event. I love that I could see the seat views before buying that on the app, and the app shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout, plus the on-time ticket delivery and the lowest price guarantee gave me complete peace of mind. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On College. It's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, join the everydayers, if you will. My everydayers are people who comment, they like, they subscribe, they give me 5 stars, and they support the show for as long as it's been running, right? And we're approaching 7,000 subscribers, and I'd really love to get there ASAP, so that way I can release the next interview. And I'm not going to release it till I get those 7,000 subscribers, maybe. That being said, I appreciate the support that you guys give me. It's been really fun. Let's talk about it. NFL jobs are opening, closing, doing all this and that. And we knew that Coach Prime wasn't going to leave Colorado for any of the college football jobs that were opening because, honestly, to be quite frankly, none of them were that attractive, right? I think North Carolina stood out as the most appealing job, and they're in a conference where, I mean, you have to sort of question the conference's long-standing strength, if you will. The ACC is kind of in flux, and who knows what's going to happen with them. So it never really seemed like Coach Prime was going to be going anywhere. However, there's been one NFL job, and I think a lot of people didn't think this would happen this way, but a lot of people have linked Coach Prime to the Las Vegas Raiders. If I'm a Colorado fan, this is the one job in the NFL outside the Dallas Cowboys, but that doesn't make sense for the whole scheme if you guys know what I mean. So the Raiders job is the one job where I'd worry if I was a Colorado fan. And I say that because there's an opportunity for him to coach his sons. And while he said he's not going to follow his sons, and he said that multiple times in multiple fashions, he put a kickstand down, I think he said at one point in Colorado. He loves it there. He's got 5-star Julian Lewis. He's got a bunch of transfers coming in. This is the one job where he could coach his son again, right? And whether or not he wants to do that or not, or whether or not he wants his son to spread his wings and fly away, like this is me flying away, it's TBD, right? I think the Raiders as a franchise, and I think this is sort of the one thing that Colorado fans should be sort of pleased about, is the Raiders don't really have an they can't miss on this hire because they've missed on so many hires before. Like the Raiders are going to be paying, and let me pull this up real quick, because they are going to be paying, they're going to be spending over $40 million per year on head coaches that are no longer head coaches. You have $8 million for Antonio Pierce, $10 million for Josh McDaniels, John Gruden, the $10 million settlement, and then whoever their next head coach is, $10 million per year. So the Raiders have a lot of money that they'll be dishing out to people, and it's one of those things where I don't know if they really want to take a chance or a flyer on a guy who's never coached in the NFL when coaches making the jump from college to the NFL as of late have not really worked out, right? You look at Urban Meyer, you look at Matt Rule, you look at even a guy like Cliff Kingsbury. I don't think he really worked out. I know he's kind of on this revenge tour right now with the Commanders, but still don't think he worked out with the Cardinals all that well. And so does Coach Prime get a look? Maybe. I think there's been some interest there between the Sanders family and Shedeur going to the Raiders. But Coach Prime has said he doesn't want to go. And I think I've learned that he not to doubt him when he says these things, because I feel like he's pretty straightforward when it comes to his interests and what he plans on doing. So I think if he ends up not getting an offer or not taking this job, I think we can assume that Coach Prime is probably going to be in Boulder for the long haul, barring another job like Florida State, who obviously played there. It'd be really hard for him to turn it down and revitalize the program if need be. That being said, I think the Raiders is like the one NFL job that I could see him jumping to because it gives him the best path to coaching his son. And I know a lot of people thought the Dallas Cowboys would be an opportunity. They have Dak Prescott, right? They don't. I don't see them getting rid of Dak, drafting Shedeur, and sort of starting a rebuild when they have the weapons in a way at some positions like Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb. They have these weapons to sort of contend now, or at least put together a contender. And I don't think inserting a rookie quarterback would be the move there. So I think if Coach Prime doesn't take this job or doesn't get offered this job, I don't think Colorado fans have to worry. It doesn't mean he's not going to emerge in rumors anymore. But if he is offered and turns down an opportunity to coach his son again, I don't know what other job would be appealing enough for him to leave Boulder when he can do pretty much whatever he wants. He has the ability to build the program how he wants. He has the ability to sort of market himself, and he has the ability to sort of be the face of the Big 12, right? In the NFL, it's not very common for a coach to be the driving force, right? In college football, Nick Saban was the driving force of his team. Like, there was always stars on his team, but it was always Nick Saban's team, right? You look at guys like, I don't even know, like top coach, like Dabo Swinney. It was always his team, even though he had stars like Trevor Lawrence and whoever else. It was always Dabo's team. And I think once you go to the NFL level, you lose that. And I feel like Coach Prime secretly enjoys the notoriety. And I just don't feel like the NFL offers that. Plus, the NFL could put him in a a stressful situation where, hey, does he have to make a decision to bench his son, or does he have to make a decision to move on from his son, or not play his son right away because he's not ready or something? So I think he likes what's going on in Colorado. I expect him to stay in Boulder. That being said, I do think a lot of noise about him and the Raiders will emerge in these coming days, because the Raiders, they're an odd franchise to say the least. And so we'll just have to wait and see what their moves are. I think they have to go with someone a little more experienced at the NFL level. Granted, Coach Prime has said he's not interested in the NFL level, but I think if there were to be a job that would perk his interest, it'd be this one. I just don't think it'll perk his interest enough. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Colorado's latest transfer portal addition. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com and join today, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, so that way you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. I appreciate you guys for listening to me every day, yak it up, chat it up. And we're going to be continuing to yak and chat it up right now. Colorado is making some more transfer portal moves, and I'm really liking the latest one. So Colorado has this tall task of rebuilding an offensive line, a defense line and offensive line, but this is a defense line move. They have a task of rebuilding a defensive line that was one of the better units in forcing sacks, one of the better units in preventing teams from getting it going in the rushing attack. And so they went out and landed Tavion Coleman from Texas State. And he's one of those guys who, I don't know if he starts right away. I'm interested to see what he sort of, I guess, molds into. But he's a guy who was highly sought after in the portal. He's a guy that had some major programs coming after him, and he ended up picking the Buffs. Had a productive couple seasons in San Marcos, I believe is how they say it over there in Texas. But he picked up offers from South Carolina. He had some SEC offers. He had offers, and I think the cool part about Colorado's success this past season is they're starting to get guys who are being recruited by other places. And he had offers from Arizona, Cal, James Madison, Purdue, South Carolina. I think he was kind of on the up and up in terms of recruiting prospects in the portal, and Colorado lands him. And I think he's a guy that should play a key role, because you have guys like Anquin Barnes returning. You have a defensive line that I think really found a groove, and I'd be interested to see sort of what he turns into, because you just sort of look at what Colorado's been struggling with or what Colorado struggled with in their losses was physicality. And the more physical guys you could get up front, the better, right? You can't be getting pushed off the ball and expect to win games. And so Tavion Coleman is a fun addition. I'm going to bring up his PFF grade right now because I thought he played well. He had according to PFF, he graded out as a 279th overall player at his position, defense lineman. He had a 70.6 defensive grade, run defensive grade 74.4. He's 6'1", 295, and he also registered a few sacks. So he showed an ability to get to the quarterback, which, I mean, you don't really expect from your defensive tackle all the time, but it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt by any means to have someone who could get to the quarterback. So this past season, he had 28 total tackles, 2 sacks, a forced fumble. Last season, he had 3.5 sacks, and so 6'1", 295 is what they have him listed as. I think he'll get a little bit bigger once he gets to Boulder. And if you're Colorado, you have to like what you're bringing in for this portal class, right? I think you're addressing needs in the interior lines. You're addressing needs at linebacker. They've brought in 2-3 linebackers already, and I think they each will play a key role in the offense. And then defensive line, you have Gabriel Lightfoot from Fresno State. He's experienced. You have Jaheim Otis from Alabama, who was an all-SEC guy his freshman year. And then you bring in a guy like Tavian Coleman, who these three guys that they've gotten will add to their defense line, build up the toughness, build up the physicality, and make things a lot easier for the linebackers to get into those rush lanes and help slow down the run again. Because if Colorado can't stop the run, they won't win games. And I think it's one of those things where Coach Prime had a vision in the portal, and I think we're seeing that vision play out. So really excited to see what he does once he gets to Boulder. Appreciate and this has been another episode of Locked On Buffs, by the way. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs, making me your first listen of the day. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. I will see you guys tomorrow, and I hope all of you guys have a great Tuesday. And make sure to stay healthy. If you feel yourself getting a little flu bug or something, because I had a fever last night, go get yourself some emergency or whatever it is. This isn't medical advice. This is just me talking to myself and what I was told to do, because I didn't want to be sick. So I don't want you guys to be sick. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hope all of you have a great day. See you guys tomorrow.